We had maybe an inch by me. That was it.
All right, you're good, Mark.
I'd like to call to order the February 14th special committee meeting. Can we stand for the pledge, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act, notice of this meeting was published in the Hunterdon County Democrat on Thursday, December 16th, 2021, and a copy of the agenda was forwarded to the Hunterdon County Democrat, Times of Trenton, Star Ledger, Curry News, and posted on the bulletin board and township website. Ms. Casper Bloom?
Here.
Mr. Mills? Ms. Ramsey?
Here.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
And Mr. Castellano?
Here. You ready? You're on, Margaret.
Okay, the paperwork that you have is updated from the January meeting. Just so you understand, anything written in blue is what we discussed in January and decided to change. Anything in a yellow box were items that we said we were gonna revisit. And, since I really didn't get very little feedback on the budget, anything that's in an orange box is things that I went ahead and made changes to. So I think basically we should just start again, line by line, and go through everything. I did come up with one thing on the revenue side. I said when I was working on the annual financial statement, the delinquent taxes, I originally had that at like 199. Unfortunately, it came in at 186. So that's where I had to drop that. On the other side is that the federal government, I guess, decided that the calculations for lost revenue on the ARP money was too difficult to do, so they decided if you were getting an award of less than $10 million, you can claim it all the first year. So that adjustment's been on here, but that has no impact on the budget.
Can you repeat that, Margaret? I'm sorry.
We were doing calculations for the Recovery Act money.
Yes.
If we wanted to use as lost revenue, okay? And I said the problem was it could probably take us 3 years before we
Yes, I
got the full
remember that.
amount.
So they said
Everybody
everything
must have
under 10.
complained, I would
Yeah.
love to know where they complained to, but they decided that, people complained so much that, anything you were awarded under $10 million, you could claim the first year. So we can claim the full amount this
Okay.
year.
That's great.
So I'm running it through the budget as a grant, so
Okay.
it's in the revenue, in the expenditures, it doesn't affect the
Okay.
budget in any way, shape, or form.
Okay. Do you still have, because wasn't there like you have to use it by,
Yes, you still have to do
so
that.
all that still
Yes.
counts, but
Yes.
we can just use it all
Yes,
or take it all this year?
yes.
Okay.
Do we even think like they'll come back after, for some accounting of it? Like we said, under 10 million, but they're.
Oh, yes, they're gonna want accounting, that's what I'm all freaked out about, is that you have to go in there and you have to report. The first report is due at the end of April. I can just go in there and say, look, we haven't completely decided what we're spending the money on, I mean, we're gonna use it for lost revenue, but we haven't decided what we're doing after that step. And that should be fine, but as you spend the money out, you are gonna have to report it once a year.
Do we have an idea yet of what our responsibility is gonna be with Sandra Road? I know.
About 150,000.
That's, okay, thank you.
That's inspections and engineering.
Okay,
Most of that.
and we put some of that out already, right?
No,
Didn't the township
just an estimate,
just, okay,
which I paid out of my engineering budget.
okay.
So
Got
we're
it.
getting
Got it, that's it.
We're getting 403 from the government, and then we have 150 of our own,
Okay,
for a total of around 550.
100 of that is for the actual project, 50 of that is for engineering inspections.
okay.
Okay, so if we wanna just start going back through line by line and just hitting what we said we were gonna revisit. The first one was the personal expenses and training in the mayor and committee budget line item, the $1250. Any thoughts?
I thought we were keeping that for this year. Is that-
That's, I mean, I just put a little,
Yeah.
anything that I didn't feel that we had a,
Yeah, that's for your training and stuff, you wanna go to classes.
Yeah.
So it's like, $200-300 a piece. I kinda calculated it up, something like that. I think that's how I did it.
One a person roughly, if we use it.
So you do wanna keep that in here?
Yeah, I think so.
And
Okay.
if we don't use it, we can shift it.
Yes.
Got it.
The next one was the overtime and the municipal clerk salary line item. That usually is when Pam works on election day, because those are 12, 13-hour days. And that is roughly what we spent last year.
Right, so we don't really have a choice.
No,
That's yearly expense or election year expense.
and your miscellaneous expenses, I think you weren't here last time, so they just want, I guess, a little more information.
That's to codify our ordinances. To publish and codify our ordinances.
Don't we usually
You
budget
have
for
a
that in
different line
administrative?
for that, don't we?
Yeah, we have a
Well, you
line
have
for,
E-code manual maintenance next to it, so.
yeah, that's what I was, yeah, the codification of ordinances, that's in the general administration, we have 6,000 for that.
We get billed like 2,000 for, like, every year for,
For the E-code, so
the
that's.
E-code.
Yeah. All right, so that's just, they wanted to know what it
because
was.
in addition to them, when we do we send them once a year, so we stack up our ordinances, because we don't do a lot. We send it once a year. But we have the website, the E-code on the website and everything, so, online, we have to maintain that. I
Okay,
think it's like,
but
I think
in-
it's 2,000.
Near the top of page 1, under general administrative and other expenses, second line after postage, we have codification of ordinances, 6,000. Last year, we budgeted 6,000, and it's showing we didn't pay
Didn't pay anything.
anything. And so we had a $6,000 balance. Then we have 3,000 under miscellaneous, and it looks like last year we spent 4,212 for miscellaneous. So I'm a little perplexed.
Yeah, should those lines be
Like,
combined?
it just
or-
seems like there's two budget line items then.
Right, and
Well,
there's
that's
what I'm saying.
$9,000, and there's $9,000.
Right, so we're saying, should those be combined or be more broken out more specifically? I don't know. I mean,
Well, on both those lines combined last year, we spent 4,200. We have
Right.
9,000 in the budget, and we spent 4,200 last year. So the question is, do we need 9,000?
I can go grab my laptop, I could keep all but she'll have record of it in her
Yeah, who's the vendor for that?
E-code, general code.
General code? Okay. Could you go back into, last year's, the box of POs and look for any purchase orders made out to general code? It'll be in the current fund.
Emery, can you grab my laptop too? Thank you.
I mean, I don't want to cut all these line items to the bare bone, because then if we need to move anything in November, we have nothing to move. But on the other hand, these two seem to be over double.
I know
what
when
we
we sent the
incurred last year.
ordinances at the end of the year, it cost, I want to say roughly 3,000, but I'm not positive. Between 2 and 3. But I don't really recall. Because we only do it once a year.
All right, well, while she's looking those up, if you go down to financial administration, I know you guys were looking into the canning group. I know you haven't made any decisions at this point, but I had adjusted this as if you had decided to go with them. I reduced my salary putting it down to half, plus any vacation payout. I also did that on the Holland side, in the pages in the back, which I also had to reduce the revenue. I put the $21,000 in the CFO outsourcing, which would cover half a year if you went with canning. But the thing is, I need to know what you're gonna do, because if you decide we're just gonna hire an outside CFO as an employee, then I have to have the money in salary and wage. And you make that decision later on, that's gonna be a problem, because all the money's in O&E. I can't, we kinda need to know what direction we're going in there.
We don't know at this point, Margaret. We have to assume canning for this point, for this, but we don't know yet.
So, basically what I'm saying is we have the money, but we just gotta make sure we classify it correctly because, you can't pay salary and wages out of O&E and you can't transfer till November.
Okay.
When do you envision us passing this budget?
I really wanted to introduce in March and pass in April,
Okay?
so I would need an idea of which way you're going. Okay, see what you have here. Okay, general code publishers, that was just small.
Thank you.
The E-code maintenance was $1,200. That's the only thing I have from general code. Let's see, unless there's something behind here. And this was just
Unless we didn't codify last year.
that's
Maybe
possible.
we didn't have enough, and we just held
That's what
over
I'm
to this
thinking.
year. I think that might be the problem.
So the E-code maintenance is coming out of the clerks, but if we codify ordinance, it comes out of general administration, so apparently we didn't do it last year.
Right, but if we're gonna do it this year, what do we expect it will cost us?
I don't know, until we send it.
Do we have a
A
ballpark?
guesstimate?
Let me pull up a last one to see how much they charged us. We can come back to it. We can
Oh.
keep moving forward and then I'll tell you.
Okay.
All right.
I don't wanna hold it up. Watch me.
Computer tech expenses, that's basically, the monthly charges we get from Princeton Computer and if we have to call them in for any problems. We-
Right, but last year we paid 6,200,
Yes,
so we have 6,500 budgeted.
yeah.
I don't know
I
what
just
that
had a
is
little
to-
note that said revisit.
Okay.
Well, we don't wanna go straight to 62. We have to have a little wiggle room because some things aren't covered.
Right, we should leave it
Yeah.
at 6,500.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry, I thought you were like
No,
gonna
no,
cut it
no,
with
no,
details.
no.
Back
No.
to 6,200. I'm like, oh.
No, that's
But
one
that's
thing we have to have.
Yeah.
There's always
Yeah.
gonna be
We're
technology
gonna run into
expenses.
issues.
There's always gonna be
Well, I don't know.
technology.
Yeah, we have to buffer.
Okay. All right, last thing we said, legal was okay. What brought us down to historic site committee salary and wages, because I believe that was the person who asked, to have the salary increased because the number of hours they were working made them basically working minimum wage.
I just think we have to be careful with that one because it sets a precedent. I'm not saying we shouldn't give the person money for the hours they're working, but we have other secretaries that could make the same claim, so you could say, why aren't we increasing their salary as well?
Well, that's why we usually ask them to fill out time cards.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, that wasn't really pushed, because at least this way somebody can justify saying,
Yeah.
I'm working 10 hours a week.
Yeah.
You told me the job was 5 hours a week, or whatever, 10 hours a month, and it turns out it's, double what you said it was, or requiring it. Where another smaller committee, honestly, they're putting in 3-4 hours a month, so. I mean, this is your decision. She's just, she emailed me and said that, she was working a lot more hours than she expected.
I believe the committee put in the suggestion.
They did.
The committee, yeah.
Okay.
John Zaremba approached the township committee as well. In his presence, when he visited the township committee.
Okay. And who did we say that our liaison, who's
Me.
his? Oh, you. In your 2 months.
To one meeting. I can check in on Thursday, yeah, or next one's or no, it's tomorrow? Tomorrow. Yeah, so,
Yeah.
how do we determine what we pay this, are the secretaries paid the same? Is that how?
No, they're all over the place.
They're all over the
That's-
place. I think we need to come to a general basis and
We do.
revisit that.
Yeah.
Some are
Well,
paid
the
like.
problem is the committees aren't fungible. There are committees that are more active than others.
Yeah.
And there are administrators who work more than others.
Yeah, they should at least make me on.
And-
There are committees that don't meet
And they're like
on a regular
FOSBAC.
right, on a regular
FOSBAC
basis.
has really very little activity,
That's why we combine that.
but, the administrator for FOSBAC is kind of a sunk cost because you have to file things with the state every year, period, regardless of how active or inactive you are. But the historic, it's a long name, but I call it the Historic Preservation Committee. I think it's the Historic Preservation and something
Advisory.
Advisory Committee, but the Historic Preservation Committee definitely is getting more active. They are getting involved in more things, which means their administrator invariably is going to have more work. I'm not offended by the request. And if other administrators believe they're also entitled to a raise, they'll have to come in and justify that, but I think we're pretty comfortable in saying that the Historic Preservation Committee is getting significantly more active than it has been in the past few years.
She's one of our good secretaries.
Well, I don't think it's not
She's on
an
top of things.
They're hard to keep.
outrageous request.
I mean, $1,100 for
Oh.
a year is not
No.
a crazy amount of money for a committee that's not dormant, that's actually reasonably active. I can't comment whether it's warranted or not, other than the general comment that they are getting more active. And she is good.
And she actually has a background in prep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what, she
She
went to
does,
college
that's
for.
true.
Where I'm having more of an issue is the next line item, which is $1,500 for the calendar.
Before we, just so I'm clear, with the, like, let's say we approve the 1,100 for the secretary, does she just get like a paycheck a month, or does she get does she submit a timesheet and then we pay it, like what?
No, someone else, before I took over payroll and I saw it coming that I was gonna have to do payroll, I asked that we get everybody pretty much on salary,
Okay,
because it
Got
just
it.
makes it so much easier, and honestly, you pay very little to do payroll. I wanted to make it as simple as possible.
okay,
So, other than having the court administrators, the court violation clerk, when we get one, that's like the only employee that we have that's an hourly person, so
okay,
everybody gets paid, and they get paid twice a month. So some people are getting literally $29 paychecks, you know?
got it, okay, okay.
So we're okay with the request for the increase? Keep it, yes?
Yep.
Jenna?
Yeah. I just-
I'm okay with
Yeah.
it.
All right, so what
All
I'll
right,
do
that's
is
a
when
keeper.
I
Yeah.
put through the raises and the new salary resolution, I'll just put her down for 1,100 and then do retroactive.
We were at 500 for a lot of these, and the turnover was ridiculous. And all we were doing was interviewing.
Yeah, we don't keep them.
We don't keep them, and when we get
Yeah.
somebody good and their committee is reasonably active, I don't find $1,100 to be offensive.
I mean, my other municipality pays just a stipend. If you go to the meeting, whatever entails with going to that meeting, you get paid a certain dollar amount. But the thing is, you have to budget for that full, if they go to all 12 meetings. They may only go to 6, and you don't spend it, but you still have to budget for it.
See, that might help us with those small committees, because if we have a secretary that can't make the meeting, that other secretary can cover without having to, they can just put in for it and get a stipend. That might make more sense.
Right, but the problem is that for some of these committees, the work is more than just going to the meetings.
Yeah.
There's work that needs to be done in addition to the meetings and the minutes. And so if you just give them a stipend for the meeting, they're not getting paid for the
You're including
additional work.
the time for the minutes and other little small work, but like for the RVAC or like HPC, the small committees. Because it
Right,
won't work
it's-
for planning board or anything like that.
Right,
No, but I see
some
what he's saying
committees,
is because if you're going, we're paying them to go to that meeting. and everything that's entailed, but
Yeah.
technically the person who's subbing, they're just gonna go to that meeting and pretty much hand off everything to the other person.
Right.
So they got paid for the meeting and the other person does the work and doesn't get paid.
And if a committee takes on a project, if a committee applies for a grant, for example, and has their administrator working on the grant,
Yeah.
that's over and above the
Yeah,
meetings.
it's the work outside the meeting.
That's the problem with paying meeting by meeting. For some committees, that may work, because the only task is going to the meetings, but for others, it's not fair to the administrator. I mean, I'm not adverse to asking administrators to do time cards. It's a question of how are they gonna react to that for a job where they're not getting paid very much.
They already have to submit a time card.
Do they do it? Do they actually do it?
Most
Yeah.
of them, yeah. I mean, I have to chase after, actually, I have to chase after other part-time employees, but actually your secretaries are pretty good about getting it to me.
Well, can't we see those time cards so we can get a sense of how many hours these administrators are working?
Mm-hmm.
By the way, secretary is not a politically correct term anymore. It's either administrator or assistant.
So real quick for the general code, I found something from 2020 that I did, and it says price not to exceed $6,835. So that, I guess we can't go over that price. Because then I think you're going into quote,
Yeah, because, basically you have to keep the 6,000 if you need it. So I
So
don't think you're
there-
gonna be able to change it. What?
It's not really spent. I mean,
Yeah, but,
it's not-
no, she didn't use it last year, but the
We didn't codify
year
last
prior,
year.
she,
How much did you use a year before that? We down or not?
no, I don't know. Because last year was fine. My first year.
okay. What about the miscellaneous? The 1,500.
Well, I don't think we should be using taxpayer dollars to fund a calendar. And my impression is that the calendar is becoming less and less popular. People aren't relying on hard copy calendars. You're looking at me horrified.
I'm gonna keep telling people come in here and ask for the calendar. But I totally agree, it shouldn't go to the calendar.
There are no, I know there are people, and there always will be people who will
No, I
come in
know.
and ask for the calendar, but the question is what percentage of the overall
It's all the
population?
older people.
Right. I just don't think we should be spending taxpayer dollars on a calendar.
So we discussed it at the, I guess, January meeting about it. You know, the Historic Preservation Committee's perception of the calendar is that the Historic Preservation Committee, like part of the ordinance says, they're like an outreach group. Like they're supposed to let East Amwell know about the history of East Amwell. And so from their perception, this is part of what they're supposed to be doing in the calendar. It gets out information because it's got like pictures of the town from a while ago. It's got all the information of the meetings and stuff. So that's why they think it's important to give the $1,000 to the Historical Society to do the calendar. That was their take on it. They're very proud of the calendar.
The meetings are available on our website, they're available in the VIP. Anybody wants to know about when the meetings are can easily find out. And also, meetings change and the calendar can't be changed once it's published and handed out to everybody. So, the notion of the meetings, I wouldn't fund the calendar for that. If they want to get historic pictures out there, we could do it on our website. We could put historic pictures on our website. There are plenty of places that we could put historic pictures. Look, I'm not necessarily adverse to the calendar, and up until this year, Kathy and I funded a page every year for the calendar. and picked out an historic picture and put it on the calendar. I'm not adverse to the calendar at all. I'm just questioning whether we should be using taxpayer dollars for the calendar. I mean, DNR Greenway does great things for East Amwell. The New Jersey Conservation Foundation does great things for East Amwell. Hunterdon Land Trust, Raritan Headwaters. They all come to us for donations, and the answer has been no, because we don't use taxpayer dollars to make donations to nonprofits. If residents want to make donations to nonprofits, they should make that decision. We shouldn't be making that decision for them.
And all the other committees get 500 miscellaneous? Is that about,
Yeah,
give
Give
or
or
take?
take,
give
yeah.
or take, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, Jenna, what do you think? Would you fund the calendar?
Well,
But they're complaining, they need money for the title search, so I mean, they could have asked for that instead of donating money towards the calendar. Sorry. maybe
No,
that's
no,
over-
yeah, no,
over-
no, it's fine.
Oh, you're talking about for the cemetery?
Yeah.
Oh,
it
oh.
just-
Right, but we had
Yeah, but
money
I-
in the budget this year for
Right.
the title, in 2021, and they took that and put it toward the calendar.
Right,
Yeah,
Yeah, that's basically what they do at the
Yeah.
end of each year.
Yeah,
They
we're
say
funding
if we have
calendar.
any money left over, we wanna put it towards the calendar.
right.
If we want a line item for the title search, I don't have an objection to that, because we should do the title search.
Yeah. No, I think we should too. I think the title search might be more than 1,000, but yeah,
Have you got a chance to,
I did.
and they think it's gonna be more than 1,000?
Yeah, they think it's gonna be closer to 2,500. So,
Well,
because of how old it is, so we
that's,
can ask other people too.
yeah, we're gonna have to ask other people.
Yeah.
Because that's high. And, yeah, we're gonna have to ask around.
Yeah, no, I agree. They just got back to me recently, so,
I'll reach out to 2 people I know that work in the title agencies.
I have to see if any of the
Yeah.
large title companies have branches around here.
yeah,
Because the large title companies might be
Mm-hmm.
more inclined to do it on a pro bono basis or at a reasonable cost.
yeah.
2,500 is too much.
Yeah, I was surprised how high it was.
That's too
too.
much.
Okay, so are we keeping it, or are we swapping it for something else? What are we doing?
Well, we probably should leave money in there for the title, and if we're saying they should have 500 for miscellaneous, we should leave then 1,000 for the title, that's the 1,500.
Okay, so take calendar out and say, and just leave it as miscellaneous.
That would be my inclination.
Take calendar out.
I mean, is there gonna be a caveat that they can't spend it on the calendar? Is that what we're gonna, I mean, that's,
What do you think?
Can we do that though? Because I mean, it sounds like at the end of every year, they're just using the monies left over for the calendar anyways.
Well, if they were using the money to have a party, or they were donating the money to some charitable cause, I think we have the right to say, no, you can't use municipal money to go out and have a party or donate it to your charitable cause. So I don't see why we can't say that this can't be spent on the calendar.
yeah, I mean, I get the perspective, I get the argument of spending taxpayers' money on a nonprofit. I mean, I get that 100%, why we do that. I also know they really value the calendar.
I know,
mean, they're gonna
I
be,
know.
so, I mean, and I gave, you know, I don't know how much that 1,000 really goes toward the calendar either. I mean, I did an ad, so, I mean, people don't do, you know, people in town do ads and stuff to help pay for it and things.
How
yeah,
much went to the calendar last year, Margaret?
I know it was a little over $1,000.
That's what I thought.
You know, I mean, some years it might only be 600. It's basically, they will contact me and say, what do we have left in here? We're
Gotcha.
gonna give it, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
And, you
Yeah.
know, if you guys decide that the calendar can't be, they need to know that. I don't want my office policing them that, you know, at the
Yeah.
end of the year, we get this and, you know, we forget that they're not supposed to use it on the calendar.
sounds like liaison will have to break that.
Yeah.
That is what you're saying.
Yes.
Well, do you want them to be able to use it for the calendar? I mean, I have my view on it, but I'm not irrevocably wedded to the view. This is a view that applies generally to donations to nonprofits.
No, we don't do it anywhere else, right?
No.
Yeah, that, I mean, that's what makes me nervous, is we don't do it anywhere else and setting that precedent. Agreed.
You don't do it
I
anywhere
would
else.
be happy to be, it'd be nice to use that 1,000 to help get grants or stuff, or help stuff with, I know they wanna do some repairs at Clausen House still.
Well, the Clausen House repairs are funded from a different source. We don't take the Clausen House repairs out of the Historical Preservation Committee budget, so they're funded from a different source.
Something that is 1,000, just.
The costs to maintain Clausen House come from a different source. They're actually coming from two sources, but now there's only one source available.
Meet at Clausen at 9:31.
I mean, I'd rather that 1,000 be used for the title search for Landos. I think that's more important than the calendar right now.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I
it
think
sounds
that's what we
like
should do.
unless we get lucky, we're gonna be spending the $1,000
Yeah.
on the title search. I mean, we may get lucky and get somebody to do a pro bono.
Yeah.
Francis?
Yeah, having been around forever and in there, if you look at the back of the calendar, it is a joint effort of the Historic Preservation Committee along with its mission and with the society, which was formed by people in the Historic Preservation Committee as a means of raising money for the rehabilitation and maintenance of Clausen House. It's not just hi, I'm the Rockefeller Institution coming in and doing something. The planning board changed their meeting time last week, and I was able to go with the county and have that edited, so we're doing just-in-time printing, and I have some in my car that I could bring in. The receipt of the reception by advertisers and by the public has been very positive. In the past, money was taken away from the Historic Preservation Committee. 2 years ago, it was taken away for something that never happened. It just went back into the November slush fund. So people make up, and at that point in time, there wasn't enough money for the memberships, and you know this, Margaret, I wrote the membership that was I paid for the one membership that was necessary for the society's function. The community, Walt's, Dave's, local businesses benefit from the advertising. I took a bunch out to Old York Vineyards, and they were ecstatic about it. They were giving it out to their customers. As we need more, even though this is the beginning of the year, we will print more or we won't, and hopefully the costs now are going to be about half what they were. Taking money from HPC for a joint publication by members of the HPC largely in the society, those books were published to raise money for Clausen House. There's some discussion for other things. It's not a party, it's not a guarantee. If we hadn't gotten hit with some $2,000 of cancellations, that money would not have been as critical this year as it has turned out to be. And I went around like a traveling pot and pan merchant, hustling ads for people. Sometimes you have to go back 5 or 6 times to get them to, oh yeah, sure, I will, and this, that, and the other.
Francis, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
If you're doing the calendar to raise money to support the Clausen House, how much money off those calendars have you made?
I don't know that. I have asked the treasurer because we have a reorg meeting in a couple weeks.
Can you provide the committee with that so we can, so you can support?
May I finish what I was
Mhm.
saying? I have asked the treasurer to do a side-by-side, year-over-year comparison for I think the last 5 or 6 years as to what was spent versus what was cost. If we don't need it, we don't take it. There's also, if there is enough revenue, there are some things that we've talked a little bit about using the shared services agreement with the county to print some things like for the village, maps or things like that, that then residents would appreciate. It's not just a calendar. It was started back in the 90s by Alona English. If I hadn't taken the calendars out of there, I'll go right now and I'll get you the calendars and you can see. But ask people who have them. I was in the bank Saturday and around and all of that. It's too damn much work to be a frivolous endeavor. Would you shut up? Not you. Even alarms go off when you're in mute. And things like that. If you want to postpone the discussion, then at your next meeting or whatever, I have no problem coming in and presenting to you the financials. And, I mean, it went to be a lot less.
All right, Francis,
Kathy worked on this for a few years, and the $2,000 Francis is referring to is from Rich Catnacci and from us. We did not donate it this year for a variety of reasons. The calendar doesn't make money, and the calendar is an historical society publication. Historical Society was set up as a 501c3 to raise money. So this notion that it's a joint project, it's an historical society project. This is now a new concept to try to get us to fund this calendar. And I just don't think we should be putting money into the
Used to
calendar.
be totally funded by
Francis,
the
all right,
township.
all right.
We don't
It's
even
not-
have an open to the public.
I know,
and
all right.
I don't want this to become an hour discussion
I
with
know, all right,
Francis.
all right. I guess I'm a little uncomfortable with using taxpayers' money. It seems it's a little self-serving, that we're donating to something internal almost. So I'm gonna say,
Well, it
let's,
sounds like we need the money for the title search.
well, we can do it for other, or the title search.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think the title search is more pressing right now.
Okay.
If we care about preserving that burial ground, I mean, that's the first step, because that's gonna be a process anyway.
And we think the title search is gonna be, well, you said 2,500, but we think they're out of the ballpark, right?
I've never asked for a title search on something that's that old
Old?
and just land too, so it was higher than I was expecting. But they are, I mean, it was foundation title. I mean, I like them, but if there is a bigger organization that might be able to, cut a little bit of a break. But I don't know if it's gonna go down to 1,000. So, I mean, I think we should try and, I guess try and get another estimate.
Can we put 1,000 in for?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying, that or 1,250
Yeah, so scratch
difference?
calendar, just leave it miscellaneous.
miscellaneous.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Do we want it, we don't want to limit it to title search, or we do want to limit it to title search?
I think we should limit it to title
Title
search
search
so
for
it
now.
doesn't become a slush fund for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that will stay in there,
Yeah,
Right, right.
and that line item for the following year if they don't use it.
okay. All right, next page, we wanted to talk, you guys wanted to talk to Krista about the planning board budget.
Well, no, the question on the next page was, at the planning board meeting, there was the issue raised of, do we have enough money in the budget to do what the planning board wants to do this year in conjunction with the master plan? And I raised at the last budget committee meeting, does this number give the planning board the money it needs to get the master plan done. That's not discretionary. If we don't have our master plan approved by, or
Yeah,
our
it's
master
not-
plan amendment approved by 2023, we can't enforce our zoning ordinances. So this is something that's a very serious deadline. They have to get it done this year. And I think the costs have been approved by the planning board. We need to make sure
Right,
we have the money to
pending-
pay for it.
Pending the availability of money.
Right, but it's really not discretionary.
No, I understand, and that's the way we basically
Our hands are
postured
kind
it.
of high, like we really.
Right, it's not
Well, that's the way we
discretionary.
postured it, that, I mean, it's, well, they don't want to just go ahead and approve it without us approving this.
Well, there's
So-
certain line items of that proposal that I guess we can accept and we don't have to accept.
I'm sorry, say it
The
again?
proposal, Elena's proposal.
Right.
I guess there's line items that we can move forward with, but we don't.
Right, as long as this
that aren't
number gets
precedent.
approved, as long as
Correct,
nothing,
yeah.
right, that's what I'm
just telling
saying.
the rest of the
So they're
township members.
basically telling her she can move forward once we agree that these numbers can stack.
Right.
And then it's fine, you know, and it's under, you know, the estimate for the planner, et cetera, but yeah, I mean, basically, these numbers have to stack.
But the meeting I attended, the number $11,000 came up. They needed $11,000. It wasn't the last meeting, it was the one before that.
Last month, I think they said 14,000.
Right, but right now it's showing here 16,000 for the planner. And last year, we spent 15,665 for the planner, and my impression was that we were gonna be spending more money this year than last year for the planner to get the master plan done.
But is
So is 16,000 enough?
her costs in the master plan? Her costs are kind of in the master plan.
Right, but also there was work done last year that she may not have to repeat.
Right. Like her
Correct.
meeting costs are in the master plan proposal.
Right.
Look, I'm not on the planning board anymore, so I don't have access to this stuff. All I'm asking is the $16,000 that's here going to be enough to cover what the planning board feels they need to get done this year to complete the master plan amendment?
Are these the numbers that Tim asked for?
Yes,
These
well,
are
they
what it was.
needed 14, which
There
is
is
12 and 2. Go ahead,
No
Mark.
input to me in regards to the budget
Okay.
for me to submit, so.
Say it again?
I wasn't informed to put a number in here.
Well, it's 14, it was 12 plus 2.
No, like
Oh.
directly, like the
Oh,
planning board to tell me to submit to Margaret that this is what we're
Gotcha.
asking for.
So how did these numbers
That
get in
was
then?
not done.
Did they go direct to Margaret?
So,
How do you
no,
do it?
I just went through my budget and see what we spent, and that's how I did it.
Okay, but is this what Tim is asking for
they're,
then?
they're asking for 14, which is 12 and 2, 12 for work, 2 for meetings.
So then this is high.
No.
Well, no,
In addition
it's-
to,
addition-
In
to
addition
this.
to the master, right.
Okay. So it's really the 20, 16, and the 2.
so it'd be 34.
Instead of 20, is that what we're saying?
Like I said, I think she did work already on some of the stuff that's actually incorporated into that 16 number.
No, but the
What?
20,000. Is
The line item
that, is that
above.
14
Line above
included
is
in
for
the
master plan,
20,000?
20,000.
I think we have to get Tim to verify this,
Yeah.
because I don't think we can agree on this unless this is what they need.
Why does it say 25?
Yeah, I was wondering
Yeah,
that
for
too.
the
That was, I think, your original estimate before, but that's what we have in the budget is 20.
So why don't we leave it as this, and then can you confirm this with Tim? Mark, or
It's
you
Tim.
or John?
Oh.
Yeah, I'm looking at my notes from the last meeting. The planning boards threw out the number that they needed $11,000, and the question was, is that 11,000 on top of the 20, or
Yeah.
is the 11,000 subsumed in the 20? Now sounds like the number may have changed from 11 to 14, to
Right,
12
which
and
was
2.
12 for work and 2 for meetings.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken,
Yes.
right? I don't have my
Right, so
notes
either
in
the
front of me.
20 is too high, because they only need 14, or you know, is the 14 on top of the 20? Or is it somewhere in between? I don't know.
I'm getting an answer for you.
Yeah,
All
good
right.
clarification of where the 14 part of the 16.
Tam is probably the one who'd
That's
be
who I
most likely to
contacted.
give you the answer. Tim isn't gonna know.
I contacted Tam.
Okay.
It's probably nice and warm for you. It's
I'm
starting to sweat.
comfortable, I'm okay. I'm okay. Now, I feel heat coming up.
So I turned the heat up a couple degrees.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
To what?
Thank you.
To bake?
That's why they wear, that's why they bring,
freezing.
that's why they bring their coats.
And my hands
Do.
are cold, so that's why it was like 67 degrees.
Yeah, that's not, 67's not good. Okay, so what's next?
All right, well, let's see. Blue we'd already changed from last time, so let's see what next. Okay. I did talk to, for municipal court expenses, we'd knocked down $1,500 out of court security. So that was pulled off. Hunterdon County contractual, for the health department. I changed that down to 7,500. And, let's see, refunds I bumped up because we've been doing a lot, she had a lot of activity last year. I don't know if that's gonna continue.
Refunds of what?
Basically, when you bring the money in for, was it the soil testing?
The perk test for the soil log witness testing for Walt Wolf. They pay us a check, and then any money that's not used goes back.
Right, but there'll be a corresponding revenue item then.
Yeah, the revenue, but, you know, people were mistaken, they think that the money comes directly out of the revenue. It's basically, if they write us a check for $1,000, that's part of our anticipated revenue.
Right.
But then when we refund, say we only have to refund $250 from that, we have a line item for refunds.
Right, but we still net get $750 in that situation, in that example. We get a check for $1,000 and we write a check back for $250.
Right, it's not costing us.
But you are having to pay Walt, though.
Correct, but all I'm saying is unless we're losing money on what we pay Walt, meaning we're paying him more than $750, we're not losing money
No,
on
no,
this.
yeah, it's, yeah,
Okay,
So we're not taking the 1,000, paying out 1,200.
right.
no.
But I mean, the refunds are what they are.
It's kind of washed.
Yeah, but I mean, if 6,500 is a more accurate projection, then we should have a more accurate projection there. So I'm fine with that. What is the Hunterdon County contractual? Is that for the licenses?
That's for the inspections,
I'm sorry, the inspections.
Board of Health inspections.
Okay. Well, last year probably wouldn't have been a good gauge because of COVID.
Right.
So the 6,000 from last year is probably not a good gauge. What historically have we been paying them? If
I'd
you
have
go
to go back,
Okay, just
just to double check.
to double check. I mean,
Okay.
if 7,500 is in line with what we've been doing historically, but I know last year those dropped off because of COVID.
I did the summer playground. We're gonna take it all out of the trust fund because we have a decent balance in it. I just left little placeholders in there, but that should be completely funded through the trust fund.
And didn't we break even last year or make a
First
little
time
money?
ever, yes.
Yeah, okay. Although we may not have the same population this year as last year.
Solid waste I wanted to revisit because are we having a cleanup day? Because I wasn't sure we budgeted enough in there. I like kind of broke it out and I put another line item in here because we have garbage pickup, we have recycling expenses because they had to be moved from clean communities. But then I thought about it and I'm like, if we're gonna do a cleanup day,
Thanks, Francis.
we don't have enough money for that. So I did,
Look, the cleanup day is very popular. It's incredibly popular. Having worked it the last 2 or 3 years, I know it's very popular. I think we should keep a cleanup day.
Yeah, the only thing we changed, we're not getting a dumpster for roadside cleanup, because they're just not bringing enough. They can just use the dumpster in the parking lot.
I put the stuff I get in my own garbage
Some
can.
people did that,
I just
so
put it in my garbage
Yeah,
can.
that stuff for the cleanup day is
I told that, so
minimal.
just use the
Yeah.
ones
If you
that
think
are
the 6-yarder would be, that's,
Absolutely.
all right. You're right.
What was the cleanup day cost from last year? Is that what?
That's why I thought that was always budgeted for. What did we pay it out of last year?
I think last year was the last.
The last year
We
we
did,
cleaned communities.
yes,
Oh,
and then we got,
you
yeah,
did cleanup day itself out of clean.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then how much, did it actually break even for money in?
I don't think so,
No, we
no,
don't, no.
no.
I think it's, evens up a couple thousand, should.
Yes.
Yeah.
Look,
But yeah,
as I
it
said, I
usually
think
runs
it's-
between 3 and 4.
Yes.
So I'm doing an estimate of 3,500, putting that in the budget.
The only other thing
Yeah.
I thought of is if we take metals, and I bring 2 dump trucks over here, and we load metals into our trucks, and then I haul it out to Klein's on Monday after, that's some money brought back into the town. I mean, I don't know how much it'll be, sometimes we get a lot, sometimes we don't.
Well, last year we let Mike
No.
bring his
Well,
dumpster.
that was after Ida.
That was the IDA thing, right?
Oh, that was the Ida thing, right. He brought his
so
dumpster for the metal.
Instead of him profiting from it, I'll bring 2 trucks over here, and we'll put it in our trucks, and then we'll haul it out, and I'll bring Margaret back a check from the.
But net, will we make money doing that or lose money?
Scrap is up, scrap is up to, I think it's $9 a hundred, so, I mean, you're talking, we just have to go to Hillsborough and dump it off, so it's not that far, you're talking, 2 trucks, if we have that much, and an hour for the guys, so I think that would be better off served if the money came back here to offset some of the costs.
I'm fine with that if we're gonna make money on it.
Instead of letting someone else profit off it, or even Republic for that matter, because they're recycling it, and if we let someone else come in and haul it away, he's profiting.
Yeah, it's all profit. At least we can chip away at the expense on the
Yeah, if we
cost of
make
it.
$300, we make $300,
Yeah.
that's $300 more, and we're not paying for a container.
But I think we should do the cleanup day.
Yeah.
Yes,
no,
that's-
you know,
It's very popular.
but I'm just trying to see.
The other
Yeah,
question
that's
is-
also-
Are we gonna do another shredding day? How much did that cost us last year? Because that was very popular, and I've had people ask me, are we gonna do a shredding day?
Isn't there 2 on the schedule, Crystal?
Mm-mm.
You sure?
We only had, for us.
Oh, the other
County,
one's
county. They do it quarterly or whatever.
That's what I said.
I'm gonna say it was like 1,000 from my recollection, but
Yeah, I think $1,000 or $1,500.
something like that was around that ballpark.
Well, the question is, do we want to budget for a shredding day in the spring, like we did last year?
I'll tell you.
I mean, if you want to save the $1,500, you just let them use the county.
People don't like using the county, they don't like waiting in the long lines.
And
Lines
sometimes
are
they,
incredible.
the county shuts down. You know,
And
they're
the county
filled.
will cap you at 10 boxes. While that was fine for most residents, we had one resident last year who made 4 trips.
Yeah. Well,
She had 4 trips worth of stuff, a lot more than 10 boxes, and we didn't care because we had the truck there. I didn't care if she came back 100 times. If the truck's sitting there, we might as well use it. We're paying for it. So I've had complaints from people about the county. Whereas with us, I don't think anybody waited more than 3 or 4 minutes. I mean, Christy, you were there. Nobody was really waiting. We had that thing working like a well-oiled machine. All right, well, should we move on while Krista's looking for the number?
My DCR expenses, that's just kind of a catch-all so that I can keep the budget an even number. So that's always gonna change. Okay, that doesn't really matter. I did, like I told you, I changed my salary in the shared service piece for Holland. I cut that in half. I actually should cut in half my personal expenses and training. We should change that too. Alright, okay, the big change to try to bring the budget in line was the capital improvement fund, because that's the only place we had that kind of money to adjust. Not happy about it, because I'd like to get the capital account funded, but, you know, I need your thoughts on it. This still allows us to put the money in for the salt barn, and that should be fully funded as long as the prices didn't go up. And this allowed $275 to go in. That would leave the $150 match for Sandra Road if you decide to move forward with that. And that would leave another $125 for whatever additional project you want to do. Jason could go over the road projects.
Yeah,
Well, no, wait a minute, I thought it was 150 for Sandra, 100 for the DOT grant, and 25 for miscellaneous.
That's what you want to use it for, yes.
Right, but assuming we're going forward with Sandra, we don't have a choice. That's what we need
That's
to do,
that's
Sandra.
an expense that goes with it, yes.
We're not gonna turn down the DOT grant for Willisowitz, so the excess of our cost over the DOT grant, we have to pay. So that's not discretionary.
No.
So I kind of view the 150 and the 100 as non-discretionary expenses. If we want to do Sandra, we need the 150, and unless we're going to turn down the DOT grant, we need the 100. I mean, assuming those numbers are correct, that leaves us with 25. That means we don't have anything for the trucks.
no, and then you might need that 25 for Elizabeth's, depending on how much the second grant is.
That's true.
So
That is true.
That's why we kind of looked at that number. We got 220 the first time. Hopefully we get 220 this year again at the end of the year. And then that project will be fully funded and it can go to design and out to bid in the spring of 2023.
And we're in the process of putting together the grant application.
Yeah, that's not due yet. Everything got delayed with, I guess, the state and COVID, because like we didn't get that award until November last year. So I talked to Patrick the other day. He said the program's not even out. He's hoping June to submit, and then it would be another, late October, November award, which wouldn't allow you to do anything for 2022. But if it's, we have the capital money for our balance, then it's fully funded right away, and we can design over the winter, and it can go out to bid in spring when your prices are best.
So then that's really not discretionary. I mean, we
No,
need
because you
that.
wouldn't want to just throw away the 220,000.
200,000, then it disappears.
No. So we have basically virtually all the 275 is spoken for, which means there's nothing for the trucks. And the trucks are dying.
They're old. Some of them are old, yes.
Real quick, shredding was $800.
The shredding was 800. That was all in? That was for 3 hours?
Yes.
I would do it again. I would do the shredding. It's a service that a lot of residents take advantage of.
Are we gonna spend all 150 of Sandra Road this year, Jason?
Well, we hope, yes, if you agree to go ahead now that we have the 403.
I just remember it
As
was
soon as the
like,
capital budget's through, I'm gonna get it designed and out to bid.
so you would spend 150 like this whole year?
And as depending on where the bid comes in. If the bid comes in lower than the engineer's estimate, then maybe not. And if we find out we can charge, and if we don't use the whole 403 and we can build some of that
Yeah.
engineering cost to that, then
Then
fine, but
The 150 goes
until
down.
you actually get a number in front of you, a bid, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
We base it off what the engineers experienced in other bids, and there is some additional room built
Yeah.
into that.
Yeah.
Like, hopefully, it's not a $500,000 project.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's a 50, and then that's less money out of pocket we might have to spend.
Yeah.
I think
If I
we're
had
gonna
to
use
guess-
the whole 400, that we're getting from the federal government. It's just a matter of how much we can save on our end.
Well, oil right now is at 90 a barrel, and they're talking about it potentially going up to 120 a
Yeah,
barrel.
that's gonna be the problem, is
Yeah.
that's why the more we do, by doing the whole subdivision, our unit price is going. It's just gonna, and we have, like I talked to Mark, if we join the co-op, Morris County co-op, which will cost us like $1,000 to join, it's gonna save significantly on the common. But no, hopefully we don't spend the whole of it. But we have to have that there, because if it comes in higher than we think, then it's a bust, we have to start all over again. And you've lost, all your expenses for the first bid.
What is, if we were gonna replace, I always forget which of the two is the worst, the 91 or the next one up the chain. What is it, what do you project it would cost to replace that truck?
$175,000. And that's, I just had one of my dealers in here the other day, you can't get, that would be at least an international, and they're over a year out. Ford won't even give you pricing right now, you can't just get trucks. So, even if you dropped a pile of money here on the table, you won't see
Get
it
nothing.
for a year and a half. The chipper's still not here, but they were last year, hopefully that one.
Right, and is it the 91 that's held together with duct tape?
Well, we've rebuilt it several times, and they're all, like, you just never know. It goes up to the dealer for something, you think, the repair shop for something simple, and it's $1,200. Like the wiring issue, we had a light issue on the truck, we couldn't find it. $1,200 later, it was a little diode in the back of the dashboard. Then that truck could have caught fire and burned the whole garage down. They're glad they figured it out. It's just the trucks are old, and we depend on them in the snow. Depend on them.
Right, so which one is the one that's targeted to,
The 94.
the 94?
It's been targeted before and it hasn't happened. That's the one. That body that's on that truck is not the original body. The original body broke in half. The body that's on there now we got from salvage yard, and we put it on out here in the garage.
And then what's
So
the
we can
next
keep
one
going.
on, what's the
That's a
next one on the
2001.
list? The 2001?
And then the next one up from that's a 2005.
But the 94 is the one that's on the
Yes.
last leg.
That's the one I want to replace. The truck's too light for what we're doing. Doesn't have a locking differential. It's essentially a one-wheel drive truck in the snow.
And that's about 175.
I would say by the time you outfit it properly, yes, you're gonna be up against that $200,000 mark. That's why I use that number. We use all the co-ops we can, get the prices down. That's what the county's currently spending on the truck.
And how much longer do you think you can get out of the 94?
And you can keep sending it up to the repair shop and put money into it. Until it blows the engine or something, that would be the big thing, but we can just keep dumping money into it. We have, the time we did the body, that was $5,000 plus our time. It has a $10,000 hydraulic system in it since I've been here. It has a $10,000 snowplow on it since I've been here. We just keep dumping money into it.
What's the undercarriage like?
We've repainted it 3 times since I've been here. So we get in there in the winter, wire wheel it down and paint it.
But I mean, how is it gonna go at some point soon, or?
It looks pretty good considering, with all the work we've done for that year of a truck.
Well,
The rust is the problem, because when you go up to have the clutch done, they can't adjust anything. When the brakes lock up, they can't just adjust it. Everything has to
Be
be
replaced.
That's why we wash them so much in the wintertime. The salt is just killing it.
And you said with lead times being what they are, do you pay up front? You put a down payment down? Like if you were to order one tomorrow, what
Well,
would
if
they?
it's on a co-op, they hold the pricing. I would buy everything through the co-op, through the, source level, and a co-op. because that's where you're gonna get your best pricing. And luckily, you know, Public Works is like its own little community, so we talk to all the towns and we talk to each other about, you know, we got this truck and we shouldn't have got that, or we got this and it's been really good. I just talked to the boss from Hopewell Township the other day. He's got 5 trucks on order and what he's ordering and what they're finding works and doesn't work. And I know Bob Silva from the county, and he's the head of Rogers. That way we don't order something and go, oh, this thing's not good. We're gonna be stuck with it for 20 years, you know. We try to all work together to help each other.
What would you
But it's
estimate,
tough, they're
like,
expensive. I understand they're expensive.
I'm just trying to see if like out-of-pocket costs for this year versus, since it would take so long to even get here, like would
Yeah,
it
but
be,
we couldn't order it without it being funded.
yeah, is there any way to like budget for half of it this year and then the other half next year? I don't know
I mean,
if we're
that's
allowed.
been done here in the past. They had funds set up for equipment replacement, and it just never happened, got used for other stuff.
But you
We did
can't
that with the
order it
salt works. No.
until we
It's
have
completely funded.
in the budget the full amount, correct?
Right.
Well, you have to pass an ordinance, and you could do a bond ordinance, but then that means you're gonna have to go borrow the money again,
Right, but assuming we don't want to borrow, we can't order,
until you have a purchase order
Until-
set up with an ordinance that's,
right,
Yeah.
we'd have to have, if it's 175, we have to have the full 175 in the budget.
This year,
Yes, if you put half in this year and half next year,
Then
it
you're
can't
right.
be ordered till next year.
okay, that was my question, all right.
It's not the worst idea. That's what we've done with the salt barn.
Correct.
1,000 a year. for
That's right.
20 years till we get to the thing. It's, you know, you should really, if you don't have the money, I can see that, but you should set up 2 of those accounts so that
Well,
even
that's what I
if the
said,
second one's
yeah.
a little smaller, you know, and puts that truck out 3 or 4 years, that at least we're moving to
I mean, now that we've got the salt barn funded, maybe next year you should consider $50,000 a year towards reserve for DPW equipment, and every year that goes in, whether you need it or not. So it just banks until you have enough to get another truck.
Yeah.
you know, because all this stuff is super expensive. When something happens to them major, it's very, just for Foley to come down and look at one of my pieces of equipment, it's $500 for them to drive down here. So, I mean, it's very expensive. And you have to have it. You have to have it. You know, these road knowledge are super expensive, and they take a beating out there. You know, unfortunately, everything I touch is very expensive.
Stop touching.
I come home with a new hat, my wife's like, how much did that hat cost? I'm like, don't ask. Don't look in the garage and don't ask.
Tell her you bought it in the co-op.
I pulled up the proposal for the planning board.
Yeah.
The whole proposal was, including the master plan and everything and all those task steps that they're picking at. Let me scroll back down, sorry. Was 30,
9.
yes. So that includes like the preparation of the reexamination, all that. And extra meetings are included in that, like the support meetings and stuff, but extra meetings are not included in that.
Right, but we still had money from that $18,000 grant.
No,
No,
that's
we're
done.
done.
That's done.
That's
That's been
done.
used?
Yeah, Margaret said it's done.
Just
Okay.
spent out.
Well, we
the-
have
So is
to
there
find
still
out.
39, or did that grant go toward the 39?
I don't know, that's,
I didn't think the 39 was the remaining to be spent. I thought the 39
I'm telling you what the whole proposal.
what the whole
right.
proposal
Yes.
was.
But I'm thinking that she did work, and it hasn't chipped it down. They haven't done the adjusted number where,
Okay.
she's done work where she won't have to do it again, and that should lower that cost.
So
That's the
let me
maximum,
ask Elena.
right? If I'm not mistaken, that's the maximum they said it would be?
What?
The 39.
39, yes.
The maximum.
Right, but I thought
But
some
does
of
the
that was
18
spent
grant-
last year.
Come off the 39, or is that in addition?
Well,
I
it wouldn't be
believe
the
that's-
whole 18, because some of the 18 got spent on other things,
Right.
on non-master plan items. But I think there was 15 or 16 left that I thought was going toward
Okay.
master plan.
They gotta find out how much work she doesn't have to repeat. Because, you know, she's done some groundwork, I guess, in the preliminary stuff, and it covers some of that stuff that was in the plan.
I'm gonna ask Elena if she can go through that and just give me an estimate.
And ask Tam to see if she knows specifically something that's been, that Elena's worked on that doesn't have to be, quote, worked on again.
So for the, under the planning board, those line items, like the 20,000, the 16,000, is that, I'm just getting confused with the 39. Where
So
would
that
it,
would
where would
go-
in theory go?
So take out this would go in here with a 20.
Okay, and the 16.
The 16 is to pay our planner.
Got it, thank you.
So
Okay,
that would be
okay.
to pay our planner
Perfect.
for anything that she does. Attend meetings on the
Okay.
outside of the master plan.
Got it, okay, thank you.
Right, every year, Jenna, we have a line item for the planner, irrespective of the master plan.
Okay,
Just like we have a line item for our municipal lawyer. You know, we have costs that we incur in just our day-to-day activities
Yeah.
as the planning board.
okay, thanks.
So it's the 20,000 in red that's the focus here.
Got it,
Is
okay.
that enough, or are we too high or too low?
Okay.
But going back to the truck, do we want to put anything aside in 2022 for a truck? And I personally think we should, because the 94 has to be replaced, then the 2001 has to be replaced. And we're not leaving a lot for chip seal, and
What was that other thing you said we're thinking should say?
I have money in capital surplus,
Right, so
that's where
that's
I'm
in
gonna
there.
take, I'm gonna take the chip seal out of that,
Yes, so we have that funded.
so it may
That's
not be
funded
the.
already.
right, but we're not doing 6 miles this year.
She has 125,000.
I haven't,
Right, you got
I would
money
be
from
comfortable doing
last year
100 at
left
this
over, and he's
point.
got money from
And you
last
have
year
some
left
stuff from
over.
last year, so.
56 or something like that?
Yeah, 50-something left from last year, so we're good.
So we have enough for this year? Okay, but then
As long as
next
I can
year,
get the roads prepped.
right, but then next year, we're gonna keep doing, the goal was to do 6 miles a year. We're gonna need another 150.
Yeah, if I manage to get all that prep and use it all, yes.
And bear in mind, the chip seal is a 6 or 7 year thing. It basically means every 6 or 7 years, you're chip sealing again. It's not a 20 or 30 year thing. So if we do 6 miles a year, the notion was that every 5, 6, 7 years, we can then start over again and stay on top of the roads.
With certain roads, we do
Right.
have roads that are beyond
Right,
just simple repair and chip seal.
right. Like my road. You can't repair and chip seal my road. There's mud coming out of the middle of it, okay? It's percolating out the middle.
It's a nice quiet road. We can work-
I told you, leave it alone. I'm fine with the mud coming out of the middle of it. I don't need a fancy
But
road.
that's the big important thing with keeping this state grant or the DOT grants going, because we can get Willisowitz done from end to end properly, get it paid, and 2 years after it's paid, seal it and protect that big investment, like we did to Bridge Road.
Right, and then at some point, we have to do Harvest Hill.
Yeah, you're not getting grants for.
We're not getting grants for that, and that's not as big as Sandra, but it's still,
And two, with Sandra, we have to get, I know people don't like the chip seal in the subdivision, but once we invest that $500,000, in a couple of years, we should seal that. There's other options, the smaller stone and stuff. We have to do that to protect the money, because you can see how hard it is to get the money. 25 years from now, I won't be here, but you'll be in the same boat. The road's gonna be shot, and there's gonna be no money. But hopefully, we don't have COVID again to get that money. I don't wanna depend on that.
you're also gonna have to do Harvest Hill.
Meyer,
That road's a mess.
yeah, Meyer,
And then there are what I call the ancillary development roads that are gonna need to get done over time, but the two big ones were Sandra and Harvest Hill. And Harvest Hill is self-destructing. And it's
Yeah,
been
I mean, that's-
bad since I knocked there in 2016, and it's only getting worse.
just put it in the mid-80s. That's when it was paid, when it was installed.
And it's sinking, and there are drainage issues, and all the other stuff you encounter when you have a road that was put in very cheaply by a developer and is now falling apart.
They need 14,000 on top of the 20.
That's what I was afraid of. They need 34. And that's another one that's not discretionary. The master plan has, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but the master plan
No,
has
it has
to
to be
get
done
done.
by the end of 2023.
So
By-
I'm changing.
No. By the end of 2020, well, the 10th anniversary is the first, I don't know what the date was in 2013, but you have 10 years from whatever that date was in 2013, and you don't want to wait till 2023 to complete it. You want to complete it in 2022. You don't want to push it till the
I think
last
they
minute.
said 2023 at the end, it's gotta be some, right? That's what the go date was for that.
Yeah, I just don't know
At
if
the
it's the end of 2023 or the actual anniversary of the date you adopted the last amendment, which was, I don't forget what the date was in 2013.
So Krista, on top of what's in here, the 2016 and
Another
2,
14.
So you
No,
want the,
not the 16.
The 20 needs to go to
20.
34.
so that should be 34.
The 16's for our regular planning,
Right.
and there's, that's still low. Because there's gonna be costs that aren't covered, and,
Yeah.
But at least
Or
it's in
escrow
line
she
with
does.
last year.
but, yes.
Last year was 15 and change.
But they're asking her to do stuff that's really not covered, but going forward.
so that needs to be changed to 34,000.
Mm-hmm.
So Margaret, after all of the changes, so if I go to page 9, and I compare to what we did last time,
Well, it's really, it's not page 9, it's the page, 2 pages after page 9.
Yeah, go to,
The one that
Basically
starts
the
with
tax
the
rate.
base.
I wanna
That
go
one?
basic
This
tax
one.
rate.
okay.
And if you go down 3/4 of the way down and you see tax impact, you'll see 776.35 was the 2021. The 2022, based on the numbers that Margaret had in what she gave us, is 805.04. So last year, someone who was paying $776 in municipal taxes would be paying $805.04 on the numbers that Margaret has. In this, that'll change somewhat, because we're adding 14,
Yeah, so that'll probably be another $28.
and if we add anything for the truck. But right now, 805.04 divided by 776.35. Right now, you're at a 3.7% increase approximately. Or another way to look at it is 805.04.
So last time we met, it was 863. So the adjustments you've made
Brought it down to 805.
brought it down to 805.
But now if we add
But
another
now-
$14,000 into the budget, I'm like, just a real rough guesstimate, I'm gonna think that's like about $28 more a year.
So
No,
805.
No?
no,
That's high?
28,
No,
no,
that's
no,
high.
because 30 some odd thousand was 18 a year. So
Okay.
14, I'm guessing is more like 6 or 7 on top of that. But right now, on these numbers that we have in front of us, the average homeowner would be paying $2.39 more per month in taxes, or $28.69 per year.
Yep.
Add the 14, which will probably take you up maybe another 8, and that'll get you to 36, an additional $36 a year in taxes for the average homeowner.
And that doesn't give Jason anything.
No.
Trucks or stuff. Gives you
Well,
20
it's all
25,000.
barn,
Well,
the
true.
road projects, and we have the chip seal money, that doesn't leave.
Yeah.
And the problem is that each year you push this off, the hole gets bigger. Last year, had we done the increase that was being discussed, the hole this year would have been smaller. The hole gets larger, and then the day of reckoning gets more painful. I'd rather somebody increase my costs 2% per year than to wait 4 years and hit me with 9%. And given that inflation in 2022 is going to be significantly higher than the increase that's reflected in these numbers, even if we add something for Jason. And given what happened last year, I think this is actually a pretty good outcome.
So Salt Barn is funded this year. So, and that took 3 years of funding?
Yes. But Jason's been complaining about it since the first day I started.
You
And
won't,
I'm shocked
because
it's
I
still
want
standing.
CYA, you know, if that thing falls down in the storm.
I was just thinking of the idea that you had earlier about doing the same thing for,
Equipment, just general
Equipment.
equipment, that way if we have an issue with something we didn't know we were gonna have an issue
Right.
with, at least there's money there, you know.
Look,
Like
if you
even
know
if we
you're
did a
going to
small
have a
amount
big
this year.
expense coming up in a few years, the smart thing to
So
do is start
reserve.
planning for it now and
That's what I'm saying,
reserve,
yeah.
rather than waiting until the roof falls in and then you have to find the money to pay for it.
this year we had 100 for Salt Barn, that goes away next year, so next year we could say 100, and even if we put something small in this year, I mean, that could almost cover the cost for next year. I know it doesn't solve an issue for this year, but at least it plans ahead for next year.
So we're moving in the right direction.
Because Salt Barn is covered, and we did 100 of that this year, so if we just continue that trend, plus we don't, yeah, okay.
The salt barn is covered, and next year we could take the 100 and put it toward the truck. But the truck is 175, and there are 3 trucks that need to be replaced. Harvest Hill needs to be done. I don't know what based on size, just Sandra versus Harvest Hill, what do we think?
Less than five,
So 200,000?
I would say 250.
All right, so we're gonna
Because
need,
you remember, when a smaller project, the unit prices go up.
right, so we're gonna need 250 for
There's
Harvest
less
Hill.
curving, there's no curving, there's no side, well, there's some Belgian block, but that's no big deal, and there's no sidewalk in there that we have to make ADA compliance. We can take a lot of that, most of that concrete work right out of the picture. You know, maybe some inlet repairs, we've already done some in there, and then the mill and pave.
Right, so we need to do Harvest Hill, we need the trucks, we need to do Myers. This is the end product of putting a lot of land into preservation. For years, our resources went to putting land into preservation, and our infrastructure suffered. And I'm not being critical, because I actually think that was the right decision. That's why East Amwell is what it is, and Raritan Township is what it is. Why we're not Raritan Township. So I think it was the right decision, but now it's incumbent on us to deal with the infrastructure, which is falling apart. And when I say infrastructure, I mean the roads and the equipment we use to maintain the roads. And so I think we ought to try to put something aside this year toward a truck. I'm not, I wouldn't ask for 175, but we should try to put something aside, so that maybe with this and then whatever we could do next year, And also, if we're eating into reserves for our chip seal program, that means next year those reserves aren't there. We're gonna have to have money to continue our chip seal program.
Just back to planning board real quick, just because of the money, like, we don't have a firm answer, or we're getting text messages saying we need 14 more. I don't think, like, Tim has approved the number. Do we have anyone, like, auditing these estimates and saying, this is good, this is bad?
The planning board is, Tara. The planning board has gone through those estimates very carefully. Because I was still on the planning board at the time those estimates came in, and I know myself, I questioned the estimates. I
don't know, I'm just asking,
Yeah, no,
right?
they're
Because
being
it just
reviewed.
seems like we don't have like a firm process nor a firm number.
Well, the firm number was, the whole total was 39.
No.
So, we were only allocated 20 this year for the master plan. So we needed the extra. They're doing it in steps. I could forward you the outline if you want.
I mean,
And-
I'm not on planning board.
No, that's fine,
but
but-
if you guys are comfortable with it, Ricky
Oh,
put it on it
definitely.
before,
We
you
know
and
they-
John are comfortable with it now, I would ask Tim, make sure, because he's the head of the planning board,
Yeah, we
right?
voted on it at the last
You
meeting.
did,
Yeah.
okay,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, those numbers have been scrutinized.
A lot of work goes into the master plan amendment.
Yeah.
It's actually a lot of work, because you're basically revisiting all these factors and how they've changed since 2013. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Can I tell you that the numbers aren't a little too high or a little too low? No, because I'm not a planner, but we did grill.
Okay.
Planner did get grilled, and people got comfortable that, and there were some changes made. And the work, this is another one that's just not discretionary, it has to get done.
Yeah, and the outlier is the state is requiring a climate change leg of it, and nobody knows what that's gonna entail.
Yeah, we don't have a
That's
price
a
on that.
TBD kind of thing.
So we're like budgeting for something that we don't know.
No, it's not
Yeah.
even being included yet.
Oh dear.
That's an
And they're-
addition.
And they're due, it's due really soon.
But they're not, well, they're not, the state hasn't really given the requirements for it, because I don't think they know what they want to do.
Yeah.
So, you think they'd give some, well, do you think they'd
You
give
know.
some seed money for it, that, you know,
Right,
you're trying to
right.
curve, could be a $25,000, you know,
Yeah.
piece of it, and you don't know. So right now, it's a TBD, and they think they could kind of push it out a little bit. The state's not gonna press you for so much for it.
If we gave like 50,000, let's say, this year, just to start putting away for the truck, how much, like roughly how much more is that on taxes per person?
Will you be figuring now we're up to 64, Margaret, 33 was 18, 36 roughly, on top of
On top of the 36
on top of what's in
Yeah.
here now. So you'd be, well, no, on top of the 28 that's in here now. 27, I'm sorry, 20,
It's about 20.
29,
29. And another 30s.
you'd be talking 64 roughly. Or $5 a month.
Personally, I'm very nervous him only having 25,000 in case, like, both trucks were to go or something like that. I mean, that's like nothing.
Everything can be fixed, it's just my maintenance, equipment maintenance line item's $18,000. So if you
Yeah.
use an engine, you're gonna spend close to that.
Right, right.
And then, you know, just-
Problem is, we're starting all this stuff up almost from a dead zero, right? Never been road maintenance, never been truck stuff, so, you know, we're
Yeah.
trying to lop it all in, and we're trying to weigh it out, obviously, tax-wise and stuff. It
Yeah.
makes a difficult decision. We know he needs it, but relative to that, like, it's never been funded before, and we gotta fund everything. So, gotta weigh it out.
And I'm not a fan of borrowing, because then all it is it's this township committee pushing the problem
No.
onto a future township
We're
committee.
finally winding that stuff down,
Right.
so, you know.
We should get to the point where we're debt-free and we
I mean,
pay,
I would
or
love
we
to
don't
say
buy.
that nothing's gonna happen to any of the equipment this year, but I can't
Perfect.
I can't,
Stop.
yeah, I can't, I can't.
Stop. Take that sound bite,
That
right?
would be great, but it's,
DPW said nothing will happen.
I can't say that.
Well, look, the other possibility here, and I went through this budget with some care. The other possibility here is to take the 14,000 out of legal. Right now, we have 40 in legal on page 2, about halfway down. I don't know if it's on Margaret's sheet. I have the whole budget from the last time. If you go to page 2, about halfway down, you'll see under 20-155, you have 40,000 for non-labor legal. We have 5,000 for labor legal. Last year, we only spent 484 on labor legal. And last year, we spent about 20 on legal. I suspect we're gonna spend more than 20 on legal this year because we have our attorney attending every township committee meeting, which quite frankly, I think is not necessary, but if questions come up, we could raise them with him rather than paying him to sit here for 3 hours. But, you know, could you take 10 out of the 40 and be okay? Probably. Could you take a couple thousand out of the labor? Probably. So could you cover the $14,000 shortfall at the planning board? Probably.
I think most of the time the labor attorney doesn't charge me by email.
I mean, that's the employment attorney, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
All right.
I don't charge I don't charge clients for less than 3/10. So
It's
if they
just a
only, if I talk for 10 minutes,
Quick
I don't
email
charge.
or mostly like a general question.
Yeah, I don't charge unless it hits 3/10.
He only does it if it's like an in-depth research where he
Yeah,
has to
there's
look.
not, lawyers, oftentimes lawyers will do that. They
I
won't.
mean, is that the number we historically spend, you know, less than 1,000 each year?
I maybe contact him like 3 times a year, not even. So it's not.
When you don't have a lot of employees, you don't have a lot of
No, I
employment
know.
issues.
Like, you always have that problem. I don't, you know, it's,
Look, if you,
We bumped that one down.
What if you leave that at 2,500? Is that too much?
you could probably bump it down to 2,000. You could probably bump the 40 down to 30, and there's your 13,000. You've now picked up virtually everything you need for the planning board.
We had Frank pretty much at every meeting last year as well, except for maybe like,
true.
he was at them. So that is a full year of him being here, roughly. And I think a lot of people contacted him last year. I'm hoping that
Yeah, it's probably
we
gonna be
don't.
more this year. That's my projection, is it's gonna be a constant contact this year. And is he gonna be doing ordinances and stuff? Who's gonna write the ordinances?
I mean, I did all that. I
Yeah.
wrote the ordinances.
That's why I don't
We
know
didn't
if
have
we
a
should mess
municipal
with that
attorney,
budget.
that's
That's
why. But I'm not on, we're probably okay taking the 40 down to 30.
Even knowing what we have on Frank's plate this year.
I don't know how much you really have on Frank's plate this year.
That's an addition though, but that has nothing, that's covered.
I think
The
you can
other
take it
stuff.
down to 30. The other thing I think you can do is on page 3. 2/3 of the way down in the lime green color, under miscellaneous, under affordable housing, other expenses, miscellaneous, we have $5,000.
We already dropped that to 1,500.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's in your
sorry,
new one.
okay,
Yes.
never mind then, okay. Let me see if I had anything.
We have nothing coming up with that, right? That's 2025?
We did all the manuals and stuff this past year, so
Right,
I don't
you did-
foresee anything
I checked with
coming.
her, Mark, we're not,
Yeah, I was
We're
saying,
not-
if we got something goofy hanging out there.
I mean, you never know what could crop up, so you have to have some in the budget,
Yes.
but we didn't need the 5,000, but if we reduced that already, then never mind. That's the place where I think you can take money and likely not have a problem. I also spoke to Mary Ann about the tax appeals, which is also it's on page 2. One slot up from the lawyer, we have 5,000 for that. She's not expecting much in the way of tax appeals. We won't know until May, the deadline. But because we're in a good market,
Rising
prices
little
are
bit.
going up, she's not expecting people to file tax appeals.
He's quibbling.
So, you never know. And in a perfect world, you leave the $5,000 in there because you never know. But if you look at what we spent in 2021, we spent $940.
I have a question. This is totally not, Anne Marie, if we have to leave Vital and go to another software, do you know what the estimated cost that is?
We have a meeting on the 15th, Margaret and I just, we think it's about 16,000 for our software transfer. We don't have to leave Vital right this second. I was thinking maybe having a meeting and maybe budgeting for it next year.
Okay.
Yeah, because the
We have to keep that
monthly
in
cost
mind.
is not
Yeah,
a
I know,
problem, but
it's-
the setup cost is obscene.
Yeah, Vital's going kind of like dwindling out and not good. That's our tax system.
Yeah, no,
The assessors use that, the entire Hunterdon County uses it for the assessment, so I don't think they're gonna go away, but we have to have our ducks in a row in the event that
It's gonna be covered.
one day.
it does go away.
They do go away, and
That onboarding fee.
what are we gonna do? I mean, we may be able to use the tool, but it's not gonna do us any good. We need anything done with it, you know, it's just sitting on our computer.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to be proactive, but any software company charges those fees to
Thank you.
transition initially.
And one other thing, are we interested in funding the charging station?
I think that's a pipe dream right now.
We did meet with Jose, and he
Right.
said another couple of
Yeah,
years, because they're gonna
JCP&L
go
looks
free.
like their model's gonna be a little bit different than PSC&G, where they'll fully fund it as
Yeah, in
opposed
a
to.
couple of years, he said
Yeah,
they're
but he
gonna
says
fully fund it.
it's their, JCP&L's at the 18-month to 2-year timeframe before they actually introduce those programs.
Right, but that charging station all in is in the six figures. We
Oh, no,
can't,
I know.
we can't
Yeah,
put that in the
because,
budget this year.
I'm at 75 now, and I have I just got an email back from our new JCP&L rep. I need to provide more documentation just to get the estimate on having the service put in. And we're already at 75,000. So
Right.
if I don't have to waste anybody else's time on this and mine, I'd like to.
I'd love to have a charging station, but we can't put six figures in the budget.
No, that's the
pre-fund
difference.
it.
No, that's the difference between the
I
PSC&G and
talked
the
to
JCP&L
Allison
one.
the other day, that let her know what he said, you know, in 2 years, there are probably gonna be grants that are, money's up front.
Up front, as opposed to pre-funding it, and then you pay your bill and then they pay you.
Gotcha.
I think this
Gotcha.
flow company profits off of.
Well, that's
Oh,
the-
sure,
I mean,
without,
they're pushing
You
it.
go
Sure.
to these conferences and the salesmen, they just try to push it.
Because they approached us.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I actually talked to Tom Malinowski about this. There may be some state money going towards this. There's a bunch of money sitting there in an account waiting for the state to figure out what they want to do with it. And some of that may go to this, so that, I'd love to have the charging station, but
We need trucks.
we can't, that's it, we need trucks. We need trucks.
Jason needs a truck.
You could get
We
electric
need
trucks.
trucks more than we need the charging station.
Yeah, a parking lot needs to be paved.
But going back to where
I'm
we
okay
were,
with taking the 10 down from, the attorney.
you wanna take 2 or 3 off of the labor attorney?
Well, you do, let's do 2,500 there, and then the,
And the tax appeals, you could
Right.
probably take
what'd you
1,000
say,
too.
May is the last, end of the filing date, so we're in February, I mean, I can't see anybody.
April's first.
Mary Ann, no, I don't know, Mary Ann said to me she'll know in May. I didn't press her as
Right, so
to,
say, that whatever, but still, we're already 2 months into the year, and everybody's house value is rising, so.
I think you probably
anybody's-
take $2,000 off of that, and then you now covered your
Yeah, we're
14,000
right
for the
there.
planning board.
I don't know if I'm comfortable with the legal piece. And I know we can't talk about this here in this session, but
Wow.
That gives, that 40,000 gives Frank like 233 hours. What, he's 125 or 150 now?
150,
He's 150, so
145 or 150, say 150.
it's 267 hours.
It's a lot,
So that's like 33 8-hour days. I mean, that's a lot
it's a
of
lot.
time. Yeah.
For a part-time municipal,
Yeah, I mean, I understand your concern, but I really think that's, the 40,000's probably way over what we're
I
gonna
think
need
we have to be
for.
conscious of when we contact them for what
Yeah.
and how often.
Well, 30,000 at 150 an hour is 200 hours. If you figure 3 hours a month for a municipal meeting, that's 36. Back 36 off and you're at 164 hours. divide that by 12, you're at 120, you're at, what, 15 hours a month? 14 hours a month?
Yeah.
Over and above your normal usage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 17 hours, yeah.
I mean,
around
what do
that
we
mark.
got? 30,000.
Maybe I'm up at a meeting, because it's included.
Office hours. It's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah, 14 hours a month, 13.66, 14 hours a month, over and above the time he spends at meetings, and I'm assuming 3 hours a meeting. Some of the meetings will be an hour and a half, 2 hours, so probably more like 15 hours a month, over and above the monthly township committee meetings.
And if it started getting tight, I mean, I guess we could ask him not to come to the meetings. You know, we were looking at I mean, I don't know when that change was made, that he comes to all the meetings, but I don't think that's always been the precedent, I mean, the attorney.
It was
Yeah.
until 2018. Then in 2018, we put a stop to it. We
Gotcha.
said if issues come up, we'll call the attorney. And the legal bills went from almost 60 a year to, they were down to under 10. Between not having the attorney there, and we did a lot of the stuff ourselves, drafting ordinances, et cetera. And quite frankly, the last law firm viewed this municipality as a Christmas tree. They wrote memos that we really didn't need, did research that we really didn't need, and just ran up a lot of legal fees that we really didn't need to incur. Realistically, in the ordinary course, we should be able to get by every year for topside 20,000 and generally significantly less. And you know, there'll be things that you and I will be doing this year, like on the Landis burial ground. We're gonna try to avoid incurring any legal fees on
Yeah.
that. We're gonna try to do that all on our own. And ordinances and the like, we'll be doing some of that drafting on our own. And so,
All right, so is everybody comfortable taking Frank down to 30?
Sure.
Yes,
I know you are.
I am.
Mark, we're gonna take township attorney,
And how much are we taking from the labor attorney?
2,500, and then we'll do 2,500 for the tax appeals.
So we're at 15. So we
That
funded
was
the
it.
planning board.
Yeah.
But we still don't have a truck for Jason. Or even 25% of a truck.
I put 50,000 in for the truck. I'd take the 275 and bump it to 3.25. And put 50 in this year, and then hopefully next year we can fund the rest of it. And he can order the truck next year.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you guys, I mean, you have to make the money decision.
And if you're gonna do that, I'm gonna put it as a reserve.
Even if you do
Yes,
that,
reserve, Mark.
and something major happens to that truck that's over there, I gotta fix it.
No, but
It's one of those.
you know, the
double-edged
longest
swords.
journey starts with the first step. Let's put 50 away this year, and hopefully next year we can fund the rest of it.
I would just put it though, not specifically for a truck, just.
No, put it in, just the
DPW
DPW reserve.
equipment.
We have some crazy thing.
Reserve for DPW equipment or vehicles.
Right.
Yes.
And then we do the best we can next year to get the truck.
Yeah, it's forward progress, that's good.
Is there such a thing as reverse progress?
We can talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can talk.
I guess it's like jumbo shrimp. It's sort of an oxymoron.
That truck was slated to be replaced back in 2008.
Okay, stop, you're gonna talk yourself out of it.
So, I mean, are we done with the budget?
Um,
Is there anything else you have for us?
Is there anything outlier or something, you know?
other than, I just need to know where you're going with the CFO, as far as whether it needs to be an O&E or S&W.
We'll know in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, just.
I think where you have it is probably fair though, because I mean, you've had how many interviews and hiring someone versus outsourcing, so
Well, I mean, yeah, but you understand, we were a different position. Before, we were looking to hire an
Yes.
assistant to become a CFO.
Yeah.
You can go with, now we're looking that we have the assistant, but we need somebody to mentor or keep her going. You can do canning, or you could find a
just seems like a
CFO
risk.
that's willing to put in a few
It's not
hours.
a
Is
risk
that-
to go to the street,
know.
that someone could leave in 2 weeks.
We're
and-
talking $160 an hour for canning. I mean, that's, you know,
Well, I said, you may wanna go the route of trying to find a
It is,
CFO
I mean, it's just like.
that only wants to work very part-time, comes in less than maybe 10 hours a week,
Can
and they're
you
not
give
gonna
me
be
like a-
160 an hour.
Like a description of what we'd look for if we went out to, so I can send it to the clerks?
What we were
see
gonna
if-
be looking for was the same thing that we were looking for with Canning, which is during the interim period between Margaret's departure and our new CFO being seated as a licensed CFO, we want someone to look over Anne Marie's shoulder. A lot of the day-to-day questions, Anne Marie will still have access to Margaret. So we're not necessarily looking for somebody to handle the transition, because Margaret will handle the
I just
transition.
want to know like an estimate of how many hours, just to get a ballpark of if these clerks, if these
That's,
people.
that's an Anne Marie and Margaret question, as to how many hours they think that Anne Marie is going to need to access a licensed CFO
And
to
then you
get
need to
done
tell us
what
if
she
you're really
needs
gonna
to
be
get done.
available and how much.
It's in my letter.
Okay.
I'm not open yet.
I've tried everything this week to get
I'm not-
this way, and it's not working.
Yeah, I mean, that might be, you may get lucky with that, to find somebody who wants to just work a few hours a week to
There's a
come
lot of
in.
emails going around for
you know.
CFOs, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is different. We're not looking to hire a CFO. We're looking to tap into somebody for a few hours a week. And there may be existing CFOs who say, you know what? A few hours a week at $50 an hour, I can make myself $150, $200 more a week. They may be thrilled to get that versus paying Canning $160 an hour. I mean, Canning's getting more than our lawyer would be getting. Our lawyer's getting $150 an hour.
Yeah, and that's 160 with no on-site. They're virtual.
Right.
Everything's
Yeah.
virtual.
So, you know,
For Canning.
there may be,
So it's
there may
another
be
phone.
somebody out there who wants those extra few hours. That's what we're hoping for. I was gonna make some phone calls to some of the mayors I know and see what they think. But if you can reach out to the clerks as well, that would be great. And see if we could find somebody who wants to make a few $100s a week extra. But we'll sort this out in the next few weeks. For now, leave it where you have it. Because there's a good shot that Canning is gonna be where we wind up, because we're not, but I'd like to take a stab at doing better,
For an alternative.
and at least say
At
we
least we
tried.
tried, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's it, right.
We've looked at other avenues.
Yeah.
All right, so you're gonna redo the numbers and
I'm gonna
then
redo the
ship them out
numbers, I'll
to...
send them out, back out to everybody. I've been working on the budget. As the budget stands right now, we were under cap, so now we're over cap, but we have cap bank, so I have to work all that out too. But we should be okay, because we have a lot banked. And, you know, I really would like to get it introduced in March, if possible. I wouldn't go past an April introduction, because that pushes us back too far.
So introduced in March, voted on in April.
Yeah.
That's your goal? Okay.
Yep, then we can get the capital ordinances going. So at least he'd have chip seal money and salt barn money. And then, I mean, like, if you get that state aid and you know what it's gonna be, say in October of this year, you can go ahead and pass that ordinance. So
Right,
that
'cause the-
first thing, you know, in February, you can start doing whatever you have to do, and you have it's already set up for you.
Right.
Okay.
All right, everybody okay?
Do we need to have, I'm sorry, do we need to have another meeting like this before the March Township meeting?
Nothing,
No.
there's
No,
nothing,
scheduled.
Oh, okay. I didn't know, okay.
you want another one? No, I'm saying no.
No, I
Just
just
to go
don't
through
know.
the final cut.
I didn't know if that's normal procedure or not, because there were some changes. I mean, I guess we would never
done
email.
this before. At least we didn't do elections.
Okay.
No,
We didn't even do this
Margaret
last
wanted to do it this way this year.
year. Yeah, I think it's
No,
great.
because I
Yeah.
tried doing it before meetings, and it was an absolute disaster.
No, this is good.
And so I
Yeah.
gave up,
So
no
do you
more night
want one
meetings.
final
That's how she
one?
gets
I
you
don't
out
before
particularly
the
need
cut?
it, I don't particularly need it, because honestly, if anybody has any objections, I'm fine with just hearing that over an email.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
All right, redo the numbers,
Yeah, can you
whatever,
redo
and
it?
then ship them out to everybody.
Real quick, we just have to keep in mind too, if we're gonna continue scanning our files, that's a reoccurring fee too.
Yeah, there's no
I
money
didn't
in the
put
budget for that one this year.
We have no money for that, so,
I think we need the truck more than the files.
yes, that's why
No.
I didn't put in for it, that's why Jason's truck's more
County
important.
grants,
I don't know, I'll look into it. Cause this, what we have now is gonna be like 27,000.
And you're gonna get that every year.
And yes, I have to keep scanning in.
all right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You wanna keep going, I know, right?
He got a
Thank
quarter
you.
of a truck, he's excited.
I know, right? Hey, he's got a salt barn, quarter